Yeah. Man, this topic right here for me as of late has been weighty and layered. So, and I guess the result of it is a project that I put together that unpacks this more. But I think I went through a quick disillusionment. I think.
Welcome.
You know what I mean?
Welcome to
I think, and it was particular too because there was a period where I couldn't necessarily get in touch with this sort of move towards social justice and Christianity. I didn't quite understand it, right? And though as an African American, I understand the backdrop of this nation, and I've always been on the right side of it in my thinking, but I didn't have the necessary grit or anger or sort of clarity. And I think when the unfortunate, untimely death of George Floyd happened, I was looking for a certain response from the church that I thought would be universal, and I didn't see it. I thought it was going to be like, okay, this is the one we're all going to rally behind. It's clear. We all see 8 minutes and 46 seconds, right? 46, 48. We all saw the tape, the footage, and that was wrong, right? And as Christians, we're heartbroken by that, right? And when it was some
radio
sort
silence,
of crickets, you know what I mean, in certain spaces that I would camp out in or frequent, I felt that sense of, dang, if I felt it and I thought we were us and us was I and you or me and I'm you and you didn't feel it, what's going on? And I think that's when, wifey and I started to have questions and start to think through things deeper. And the result of it was identifying what was going on, which was there was a parallel train running alongside of Christianity that was hard to detect because it's so synchronized in many ways. You wouldn't even be able to see the second train because it's so on track with the other one.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Like looking from this angle.
Yeah, looking from this angle, I just see one train. You feel me? And eventually, I saw like, wait, hold up. Are those two trains? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we were able to identify it as what some call Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism, which is more of an American version of Christianity, or exclusively an American version of Christianity, that has borrowed language, verbiage, hangout spots, apparel. Like they've taken on the skin of this thing called Christianity, and they go to the same places Christians go to, and they camp out and hang out and they intermingle with so much so that it will be hard to detect. And that Christian nationalism is a false Christianity. It's one that's more patriotic in nature. It's one that's rooted in white supremacy as a goal to sustain, to forward, but to so align itself with biblical Christianity so as to pull from a collection of people that can be manipulated into forwarding a more patriotic American agenda. And when I saw that, I was like, I don't want any parts of that. I don't want any parts of that. And if there have been times where I was a part of it or aligned with it in a way that I didn't understand or know or even recognize, I want to denounce it. I want to be clear about it. And I want to point out where it is. There it is right there. It's showing up right here. It's showing up right there.
Can you, what are some examples of that? Like where does it show up?
Yeah.
How do we detect it for all of us who are like, wow, this is a new concept that I need to consider. I'm not quite sure like how to find it.
Yes.
It's foreign to me, so help me to understand where.
Exactly, bro. Like, so one, for example, would be, I remember, well, let's just go with the thing I've mentioned before on a podcast, which is when tweeting about George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, and then you get a response that says, yeah, but what were they doing first? Or, yeah, but look at black on black crime. I saw the splinter, because it's not necessarily an issue of, well, wait, we don't have all the facts. The issue was human life being unjustly taken. Christians believe all humans are made in the image of God. So A plus B equals C for us. If we're made in the image of God, a human life was taken unjustly. That's easy for us. We already know that's wrong. But for somebody to say, wait, we need to first consider how bad you are to your own people. It's like, why would you change the subject? What does that have to do with what we're talking about, right? We're not talking about black on black crime right now. Yeah. But that need you felt in you to change the subject show that your agenda has jumped tracks to more of a political ideology, which is more in line with making good American upright citizens. And you've switched into politics, and we're talking about humanity, human dignity, these basic truths that are championed from the scriptures. Even the eye for an eye that you read in the Old Testament is rooted in all humans having such high value that if a life is taken, another one must pay for. Right? It's that deep. For us.
Or like even yesterday, in terms of like changing the subject. And you're going to have to keep going deeper. I'm going to keep pushing you.
Yeah, for sure.
You had to keep going deeper. But like even yesterday, for example, where somebody was responding about the Breonna Taylor stuff, like, and they were obviously grieved and just trying to work through what just happened, with the verdict. And the response was, instead of focusing on justice, we need to be focusing on Jesus and his blood and how he died, and one day he'll come back. That was a literal response. Would you say that that's in line with this nationalistic way of thinking amongst Christians? And
that's even more poisonous. Because it sounds like it's prioritizing God's things. Right? You're talking about Jesus's return. You're talking about the gospel and heaven. Right. So on the face of it, it sounds very pious and spiritual, like you're keeping the main thing. But the very nature of pitting it against injustice, making them compete as if God isn't in the center of police brutality in a deep concerning way, that he wants us to dismiss that and get back to conversations about his eternity, Jesus' blood, like the fact that you made God an enemy of a good thing, for some gospel thing, shows you jumped tracks and changed the subject and moved into politics, but you've used Christian verbiage to prioritize a version of Christianity that is really gutted of the heart of Christianity.
Right. So Christian nationalism shows up, and so Christian nationalism is at home in politics, you would say. Like politics is where it hides, in a sense.
Yes. It seems to be whoever the users of Christian nationalism are, they acknowledge somewhere in their experience that the way to make America convenient for them is through Christianity. So how can we make America sort of shaped and molded around our conveniences, a lifestyle that benefits us?
But people are not going to feel like that's what they're doing. So for example, if you're correct, right? then this thing is really, really deep. I mean, it would mean that, our use of the flag, it would mean of the allegiance that we pledge to the flag, one nation under God. Like, it would kind of it has tentacles and kind of everything. So much so that I don't know if people would, like, if people hear you say that, I wonder if they would say to themselves, but that's not how we think. We're not using Christianity to our advantage. It's just, that's what this is. We live in a Christian nation, it's, that's been submitted to God. Yeah, we got some stuff wrong, but it's not because we're trying to be these manipulators of Christianity. And what are you going to say to that person?
Yeah, I think they would run alongside of, they would be, I guess, like an improvement on the other kind of person, while at the same time, unfortunately, forwarding the same agenda.
Yeah.
Right. So just because you're ignorant of a thing doesn't mean that the consequences aren't real. Right. So let's just say if you were a German citizen during the Nazi Germany regime, and you thought, okay, Hitler's in power, I'm not going to per se stand against him. That don't really have nothing to do with me. I'm just trying to take care of my family.
Which the church did do that. The church came alongside of Hitler in a lot of ways, and Bonhoeffer had to raise up. They did with a very similar thing, which they wouldn't have identified as Christian nationalism, but National Socialism. Yeah, it was the same exact thing.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
But let's just go with the innocent, quote unquote, innocent German Christian who would have said, "Look, I don't know what this new regime is all about.
Yeah,
I know I'm a Christian. That's it. I'm gonna go to work every day. I'm gonna pay bills, take care of my family. That's it." You may think that is some sort of innocence, or you may think that there's no blood on your hands because you've disengaged this new regime and the agenda of this crazy man. You know what I'm saying? When in reality, your silence is complicit. Your though you may be one that says, I ain't using Christianity to come down on the Jews. But if it doesn't stir up necessary anger in you, if it doesn't stir up necessary reactions towards something that is really bad and evil and dark, you're still contributing to the overall problem. So I'm saying that to say, so for the Christian who may say, I'm not a part of this, I don't think it was right what they did to George Floyd or Breonna Taylor. That's good. That's an improvement on a person who is vehemently out to do evil in the world, right?
Yeah.
But it's a bit incomplete in that if it's blaring evil going on around you, I would hope you would be able to call it that as a Christian. And then you would get busy being creative and standing against it as an expression of being right, as an expression of God's heart for the good of humanity. Romans 13, where God wants the government to be ministers that brings peace in the world. I would hope that you would want to align yourself in some sort of active way. It's the scale of ways to be active. You don't have to be out protesting. It could be on your job, disagreeing with someone that says, I think the true crime was George Floyd having a counterfeit 20 that ruined the economy and hurt the family that owns the store. You could be the voice that says, is that the saddest part of the story?
Yeah.
And already you're being a part of change. You're stepping in an active way.
Yeah.
Moving the needle forward towards God's things in terms of how he's engaging the mainstream world.
So that's the question. So what are God's things? Let's just say aside from George Floyd.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody's like, all right, yeah, but what do you mean? God take care of my family? I'm pro-life. You know what I'm saying? I'm anti, homosexuality. I'm a good person. Like people have this list in their mind, and whenever somebody says doing good things, a person naturally starts to check boxes in their mind. And many people are like, well, I still don't get it. Like, I'm doing good things. I go to church every Sunday. I did it. How do I know that I'm a Christian nationalist? Like, what makes me nationalistic in my Christianity, or more political in my Christianity than Christian in my Christianity?
Yeah, great question. Great question.
Aside from social justice issues Well,
I think first, before aside to it, I think first, the person has to examine to see if all the good things only break towards their people group. So if you're that's why I brought up white supremacy. Sort of the central thing in Christian nationalism is to maintain, whiteness in the world or in America. So part of the thing is, all the things I fight for, do they all break my way? Will they make my neighborhood safer, my bank account more secure, my children in better schools, my children with better health care, and it doesn't consider the rest of the people groups around you? Then you have to say, am I a part of some other person's agenda? Because it seems like everything breaks my way and makes my world happy and convenient.
In the name of Christianity.
In the name of Christianity, or using some Christian principles.
Yeah.
So then it becomes stuff like, well, I did vote against abortion. And for you, that breaks your way politically because you connected it with, this is on God's ultimate agenda of right and wrong. But then when somebody wants you to use that same sentiment, okay, good. You acknowledge that that's a deviation from God's heart. Can you use that same muscle to see how police brutality is a similar wrong? And because it doesn't affect your son, who could potentially be killed by the police officer, you can't get in touch with those emotions. Now you got to say, why doesn't my heart feel anything?
Yeah.
It's like your heart breaks for the unborn, but it doesn't break for the teenage black boy. You got to ask, what's going on there? What emotional sensory is off? And is that because I'm informed more by my political view that says, check this on the box, unborn, against homosexuality, pro-gun.
Yeah.
And then you realize, wait, that aligns with the party's view.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I hear the voice of other Christians, black and brown, with other concerns.
Yeah.
I need to listen to that. And in fact, let me read you this quote from he's a Lutheran, Dr. John Nunes. He's the president of Concordia New York College, right? I thought this was a dope quote. He says, if your faith, which is 2,000 years old, is global and worldwide, and it aligns only with the left wing of the Democratic Party or with the right wing of the Republican Party, then I say something's wrong with your faith. In other words, your faith is too old and has passed through too many cultures and styles of government, that if it's only aligned with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, something's wrong with your faith. It doesn't reek of Bible in this ancient memory. It only reeks of a specific agenda that seems to only be for white supremacy and Christians in America who live in this suburb or live in this school district. Then you have to ask the questions. This doesn't fit with the broad scale of all of the history of Christian
that really is an eye opener, because what it does is it forces us. It seems like everybody wants to be at the top of the pecking order. Like whenever you think about any centrism, if it's ethnocentrism, whatever centrism, like you have to be, if you're Israel centric, like Israel is at the top of the pecking order, and everything else is beneath it. But whenever you have that kind of narrow focus, what ends up happening is you're missing out. Like when I think about Hebrew Israelites, for example, right? They're like missing out on the universal scope of the faith.
Yeah.
Because once everything becomes Israel focused, you begin to miss out on on the Abrahamic promise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And your seed will bless all the families of all the nations.
Yes.
And what you're saying is so good, because how often do we kind of see the world, understand our faith through the lens of our very limited experience as Westerners, with Western politics, and then on top of that, because that may not be so bad in and of itself, if the politics of the West was not, if there wasn't so much imperialism with, political and cultural imperialism, that has kind of shaped and molded us into thinking a certain way. And in doing so, and what's happened as a consequence is our minds have become closed. So we don't even think about the broader context of Christianity. Yeah. We don't think about it in the broader context geographically. Yeah. We don't think about it in the we don't think about how our Indians worshiping God, what that experience is like, maybe culturally. And if they come over here, what some of the uniqueness and distinctiveness of their experience that they're bringing to the States. Yes. So that's unique to their ethnicity, right? Unique to their national. So it's like what you're saying is so good is because what it should do is, at the very least, at the base level, I think what happens is we have to expand how we understand Christianity as an ancient faith. Yes. It's ancient, like you said. It's ancient. It's brown. It's black. It's you know what I'm saying. It found its way into India and parts of Asia and Africa and Ethiopia and Egypt and and it's like we literally our glasses are literally American glass, like. They're not rose colored. They're red, white, and blue. Right. And we see our faith, our understanding of what's right, what's wrong, our values, our truths. We see it all through the American lens. Yes. And we don't. Here's the part though. We don't even know it.
Don't even know it.
And this is why I'm pressing you so hard to keep unpacking it for us, because I'm like, what you're saying right now has the stuff that it has to dig up.
I know. That's why this has to be. There has to be a part 2.
It's gotta be,
maybe
bro.
Even a part 3.
It's got to be, bro.
But this just introduces.
It's just introduction, bro.
Yeah.
But this thing has to dig up.
It does.
It has to. Jeremiah 1. He said what God wanted to do through him was uproot. That was you gotta get the bad stuff out first, but you gotta know there's bad stuff there.
Yes.
He said, "That's the
way forward.
That's the way forward.
That's the way forward, bro."
And I think what you're exposing right now is this nationalistic perspective that Christians have had, very narrow, culturally imperialized Western perspective that we have, that has colored all of the Christian experience and all of our lived experiences, and. But we don't realize to what degree, we have become lopsided and thinking only this is God.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And to an onlooking world, we're confusing to them.
Yes.
Because now Christianity is defined in a way that doesn't seem to be friendly to some universal principles that maybe some outside persons get and understand and are okay with, but because we can't see how we're part of someone else's agenda in the name of Christianity, we're not making friends and we're not moving things forward the way we should.
Right.
And so much more could be said, but we'll be back for this one. Make sure you hit that notification bell after you subscribe. You don't want to miss this complicated ish.